afternoon. I am Vanessa Thomas with the 12 o'clock news on the street 919 FM and online Facebook and YouTube. In the headlines, Trinidad and Tobago records first Omicron variant. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley sees a brighter 2022 for TNT. Opposition leader Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar wants DPP probe of a townhouse purchase by Prime Minister's relative, and internationally, pandemic health costs pushed 500 million people into poverty. And now the news in detail. Health Minister Terence Singh declared this morning in a clinical update that the first case of the Omicron variant has arrived into Trinidad and Tobago. Singh said the person, identified as a female, came into TNT from New York and was allowed to board the flight with a positive PCR test. According to the minister, the person was isolated immediately upon arrival at Piarco. He described the fact that the person was allowed to board a flight with a positive PCR test as disturbing. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is giving some hope for the new year, telling citizens that 2022 will be better. Dr. Rowley expressed some optimism on the economic side heading into 2022, despite restrictions over almost 2 years in an attempt to control COVID-19 cases in TNT. The Prime Minister gave hope to the population and said we can look forward to considerable improvement economic-wise next year. The country continues its battle with the Delta variant of the coronavirus, but a hopeful Prime Minister says while the past 2 years was difficult and while he was hopeful that the country would have dug its way out of the pandemic, the reality is fortunately it could have been worse. Dr. Rowley noted that economically, as long as we are not beaten down by the virus in 2022, TNT's economy should improve. Opposition leader Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar is calling on the Director of Public Prosecutions to investigate the purchase of a townhouse by a relative of Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley. Speaking at the United National Congress's rally yesterday, Persad-Bissessar said the townhouse was sold for $1.2 million last year. She said the three-bedroom townhouse was first sold for $1.6 million on September 13, 2019, and then resold to Dr. Rowley's relative in August for $400,000 less than the first purchase price. Because of this, Persad-Bissessar said the sale has been deemed suspicious. According to the Financial Intelligence Unit Guidance Note on Suspicious Transaction and/or Activity Reporting Standards, updated September 2019 at page 10, it states that a red flag which points to money laundering is where a client wants to resell a property shortly after purchase at a significantly different price without corresponding changes in market values in the same area. Persad-Bissessar said she was doubtful that the townhouse would excessively depreciate by $400,000 in such a short space of time, while the others in the same development, some right next to the townhouse in question, increased in value. Persad-Bissessar calls on the DPP to turn its full attention on this matter, adding that she will ensure the matter is referred for a full and complete investigation. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley recently addressed the issue of his purchase of a townhouse in Tobago, saying it was done above board and was purchased with the savings of himself and his wife Sharon Clark Rowley. Dr. Rowley's daughter also purchased a townhouse in the same development. Chief Justice IWER Archie will be away from Trinidad and Tobago from December 13th to January 3rd. This was revealed in a statement issued by the judiciary this morning. During his absence, Madam Justice Alice York Suhan will act in his role. And the Trinidad and Tobago Met Service reminds that an adverse weather alert yellow level remains in effect until 6 p.m. today. It advises of showers with the chance of thunderstorm activity. The Met Office states conditions will gradually settle by evening into night, despite a few lingering showers. International news now. More than 500 million people globally were pushed into extreme poverty last year as they paid for health costs out of their own pockets during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. This, according to the World Health Organization and the World Bank. A joint statement Sunday from the two organizations said the pandemic disrupted health services globally and triggered the worst economic crisis since the 1930s, making it even more difficult for people to pay for health care. WHO's Director General states that all governments must immediately resume and accelerate efforts to ensure every one of their citizens can access health services without fear of the financial consequences. According to a study published in March, the pandemic has driven 32 million people out of the middle class, defined as those earning $10 to $20 a day. Healthcare is a significant political issue in the United States, one of the few industrialized countries that does not have universal coverage for its citizens. And that was the 12 o'clock news on the street, 919 FM, and online Facebook and YouTube. As we go, recapping the headlines. Trinidad and Tobago records first Omicron variant. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley sees a brighter 2022 for TNT. Opposition leader Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar warns DPP probe of a townhouse purchased by Prime Minister's relative, and internationally, pandemic health costs pushed 500 million people into poverty. Do enjoy your afternoon and continue to be safe. I am Vanessa Thomas.